Salam yoldaşı. Axşamınız xeyir.
Akşam sayısı var.
Hello to everyone. I will wait another like 3 minutes and then I will start.
Good evening. Okay.
Bəli.
Okay. Hi to everyone. I will start because I have quite a lot of slides today, and there's a lot of things I want to go through. As I understand, I have 90 minutes. I will go on without any pause because fortunately we don't have time. So my name is Thierry Cellerin. Let me go with this slide. Just a quick check. Everybody can see me. Everybody can hear me. No problems.
Yes, we can see.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Perfect. Okay. If you have questions, please keep your question for the end of the presentation. Otherwise, it will, let's say, break a little bit the flow. Okay, well, I will take 10 to 15 minutes at the end of the presentation to answer your questions, if any. A quick word about myself. I'm a French-Italian man living in Moscow for 20 years. I'm an entrepreneur. I've created 6 companies so far from over the past 15 years. Out of these 6 companies, 2 are up and running, and they're working pretty well. 1 I sold, 2 failed, and the last one, Startup Legend AI, that you can see here, is my last venture that I'm launching right now in France. If you have a question about this project, I will be able to answer you at the very end of the presentation. So out of my 15 years experience of being an entrepreneur, I made many mistakes. Some things I did very well, some did worked, some didn't. And the goal of this presentation is to share with you my experience in this field. I have 3 masters, one from Oxford in innovation strategy. My executive MBA I did at Antwerp Management School, and I have also a master in law that I did in France 20 years ago. And actually, I'm a PhD student. So, yes, before I start, I will start with a common sense, something that you have heard many times and you are facing right now. Yes, sorry, you have a question? So please, everybody, put your computer on mute. Again, I will give you 15 minutes at the end of the presentation to ask your question. That will be the easiest way. So I'm coming back to this sentence: 90% of startup fails in the first 3 years. Everybody of you have heard that. This is true, and actually, it's not only true. The thing is, it's not 90% anymore. It's the reality is around 95% of startup fails in the first 3 years. There are many reasons for that, but one, let's say, of the main reason is not about that much of the idea, not about that much of the team, and I will get back to that afterwards, is mistakes you will make as an entrepreneur. Being an entrepreneur is something complicated. It's something that is either you have it in you, either you don't have it. It's not for everyone. But if you make mistakes, the more mistakes you make, the less chances you have to be in a success with your venture. And again, we all look at the best cases scenario in our industry. These are exceptions, right? The reality is it's very difficult to become a successful entrepreneur. I will start with some statistics. First of all, 32% of startups fail due to a lack of market need. 29% fail because they run out of funding. And last one, 23%, they fail because of a weak team. Now, of course, this is statistics, and you probably have read many of those statistics on the internet and so on. But if we look a little bit behind those statistics and we dig a little bit behind the numbers, there is something which is recurrent out of these 3 statistics, is that at the end of the day, what matters is how good you are as a salesperson. Saying that there is no market, there is always a market. Whatever product you have, it can be big, it can be small, it can be niche. There's always a market. I've never seen in my life a startup, a presentation for a startup for which I said there is zero market to that. Just to cry out loud, I remind you that there are some people that even manage to sell space on the moon, right? So the question of there is no market is a wrong one. The real one is how good are you at selling what you're doing. Second thing is also connected to money. Of course, if you run out of funding, you cannot continue your venture. We understand that. But what does it mean? It means that you were not good enough with your sales to cope with your spending. That's it. You're not fast enough. That's what it means, running out of funding. Guys, please, guys, cut your, put on mute. Last one, fail because of a weak team. There is no weak team. I've been, again, 15 years in business myself. I've partnered with absolutely everybody. There is no weak team. There can be weaker team, yes, but to be honest, if you're able to sell, how weak is the team, it doesn't matter. You will be able to go through. So sales is actually the cornerstone of being a successful startup. The first thing that we're going to discuss today will be how to get the first clients. When I say the first client, I don't mean the number one client. Either the number one client is very important because that's the one that validates, let's say, the idea. But we're talking here about having the first clients that allows you to launch properly the business. Having the first client is important for 3 dimensions. First of all, it's a proof of market. If your idea has some people that are ready to pay to have access to whatever you are proposing, it means that it's not an idea that you have. You mean you have a business. Because what it is, the fact of one person buying your product, one person paying money to buy actually your product, it's a social proof. It's a social proof that you exist. Until the moment you did not had any sales, you do not exist. Whatever you have a company, whatever you have funding, whatever you have partner, till the moment you don't have any client, you do not exist as a business. Second point is first clients will give you access to real feedback. Guys, please put on mute. Thank you. You have real feedback. Real clients, they will have expectations. They will take your product, they will use it, try it, and then they will come back with critics. Those critics are very important to you because that's real life critics. That's what starts to move your company from something that has a potential to something that has high potential. And third one is money in. Yes, you're selling something, you have some money coming inside the business. And when you have some money coming inside the business, this is very good for you because you're starting making some money out of this time you are putting on your idea. But it's also very important for investors, for all your investors. Your investors are people that trusted your capacity to launch a product. Right? If they see that you are able to make some money, this is a very good signal. And good signal means more potential inflow of investors' money. Now, the main assets of your business is you. This is a sentence I really like because I keep repeating it again and again and again. There is the only one important thing in any business that you are in is you. Why is that? Because first of all, you are your best salesperson. How many conversations I had with clever guys, very clever people coming with very, very clever ideas and thinking that I will come to a market, I will hire a salesperson and sales will go on. It doesn't really work like this, unfortunately, because my experience showed me that finding good salesperson, it's something really rare. It's very, very difficult to find really a good salesman. But at the end of the day, it's not even that what matters. How good this salesperson will be, how connected this salesperson will be. The important things are really connected to you. First, you are the person that knows the best your idea. You know everything your idea. You spend so many hours thinking about it. You can answer any question of your idea. You believe in your idea. You believe in your idea more than anybody else, right? And as you will see, many times, first clients, they don't buy a product. They buy the person that will deliver this product. This person is you. And finally, you are the only one that really care about your product. And this is something that some of you already have experienced. Some of you will experience in the future. You start a company, you hire the first people in the company, and you will think that I'm hiring people and they will care as much as I do, which is wrong. When you have somebody joining your company as an employee, this person will never care about the business as much as you do. They don't care because if for some reason the business dies tomorrow, well, they find another job somewhere else, right? So they don't never really care. You might think that they care, but they never really care. Another thing is important is your reputation. Your reputation as an entrepreneur is very important. And what I want to say here is your reputation is tied together with your project, with your company, with your startup, which means that if you have a good reputation and if what you deliver is fine and people knows you as somebody reliable, it will drive clients to you. But at the other way around, if your reputation is negative, it will drive clients away from you. Think about it. Think about for yourself. You are going on vacation tomorrow. You're looking for an hotel on booking.com or whatever other site, right? You see a 4.5 hotel out of 5 stars possibly. Okay, 4.5 seems good. If you want to dig into what people like and dislike, what you're going to look in a priority is not the positive comments, is the bad one. You want to understand what is that people don't like with this specific hotel. So this is why one negative experience can outweigh 10 times a positive one. Another important thing is to have a long-time sales plan, a long-term size plan, right? For 3 reasons. First of all, if you are moving in a new market, if whatever you're doing is working, you can be sure that in a weeks or in a months that will come, competitors will come and competitors will be more ready. You have fast second movers, or you can have big players on the market that decide that there is a market and I can very easily, let's say, copy you or replace you or whatever. If you go against a Meta, if you go against a Google, if you go against an Amazon, you understand that for them, copying you is not an issue. Yeah, they can come and buy out your company. But in most cases, if you pay attention over the past 5 years, they're just copying ideas, not buying ideas anymore, right? Updating products and team is also something very important. We'll tackle that more during our next session, which will take place this Friday. But the team that is around you today, and that makes sense today because that's the stage you're in, might not make sense tomorrow, which means that you can have very good talents on your company that can leave you, people that you trust very much that are not good enough when the company starts being bigger. And out of this, the result is you have something that may work, and growing will actually push your business to blow. And again, this is something that we're going to see next time, how to grow a business without blowing it. So the philosophy of this course that we have together is built out of 2 elements that are helping each other, right? The yin and the yang. The recommendations, so it's recommendation out of my own experience as an entrepreneur, out of 15 years of being an entrepreneur myself and speaking with hundreds of other entrepreneurs, and best practices. Here in best practices, I will give you personal examples, but I will also take examples from famous companies. And you will see that everything is tied up together. Okay, so again, our course is in 2 parts. Today will be about winning your first client. When the next course, which will take place at the same hour on Friday, will be about scaling without crashing. And I will start with how to acquire your first client. And this is probably the question most of you are asking themselves right now, right? You might have first client, first 5, first 10 clients, but you will need clients every time, every day, every month. This is how you build a business, a permanent flow of new clients coming to you, right? So here I will go through 6 recommendations that are, in my point of view, the most important one, the one that I'm following myself for all the businesses that I've launched and I'm launching. First one is get out of the building, pitch everywhere, start selling early, remove entry barriers, fake it until you make it, under promise, over deliver. Okay, and I will get into all these points with details for you to understand what I mean with them. My point is, again, I will come back to that. If you have to remember one thing of this course is this slide. There's 2 slides that you have to remember, and you will see at the end I've put them together, right? This is the principle that I really recommend you to remember because they work. And if you have the discipline of respecting those principles, again, those are mine principles. You can change some of them you dislike on everything. But if you have the discipline of following those principles, then you have more chances of being a successful entrepreneur. You have more chances that your specific business will be one of those 10% of business that outlive those 3 years period. Okay. Let me start with the first one. Another recommendation that I will do, as you will see, all my recommendations are tied with the original sources of those ideas, concept, and recommendation I'm doing. I'm spending a lot of time reading books, and if I give you a very good advice, because it changed everything, and me getting from, let's say, a one-man business in the early 2010 to a $2 million plus business in 2019 was mainly because I spent a lot of time reading books, business books, different business books. And actually, Warren Buffett will also recommend spending 80% of his time reading books. Not saying spend 80% of your time reading books, because you have much more things to do, especially at the early stage of your startup. But reading books is a very important element, let's say, to build yourself as an entrepreneur. Okay, so first is get out of the building. The idea is shift your mindset from building first to validating first. The idea is very simple. You may have the best idea in the world right now as your startup. I don't know that. There are many ideas over there. Out of my life, I have met, again, hundreds with entrepreneurs with brilliant ideas. A lot of them had brilliant ideas. However, only few of them will manage to transform those brilliant ideas into concrete business. Why? Because your idea by itself, it's worth nothing. It's worth something if the market can validate this idea. This is what the idea of get out of the building is. Do not stay alone with your idea. You have to test the idea with the market. You must verify your assumptions with potential client. You must meet as much people as possible. Mistakes that I see very often, unfortunately, is people having an idea, ask about this idea to their close friends, their relatives, their family, their wife, husband, and ask and try to get a feedback of people which are the inner circle. This doesn't make any sense, because those people that are very, very close to you, I will not be able to objectively assess your idea. Anything you propose, they'll say, yes, it's a good idea. They want to support you. They want to be there for you, right? So this feedback is not a real feedback. The real feedback is when you meet real people, which are real potential clients. And those real potential clients will say, yes, I like it. No, I don't like it. And usually when somebody says, yes, I like it, the second question I ask is, how much are you willing to pay for it? And this is very important, because you will see if the person answered, let's say, right away something, then you're in business. If they go around the question, oh, I don't know, I will think, I have to discuss, blah, 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 well, it mean that they're not ready to pay for this specific service of yours. The second thing is, people we discuss with a maximum number of people will give you an idea of which are, let's say, your clients, which person react the best to your idea. Okay, what kind of problems your idea can fix for them. Okay, so you get insight, concrete insights about what the market is expecting. And finally, and the last one is, you can, having those conversations, it will make you understand what are the triggers and what are the price point. If you have a product, you don't know what is the elasticity of the price. Try different things, every different conversation we have a client, try a different price point. This is exactly what we did with Legend AI. Again, if you're interested, I will explain you what is the idea at the end. But we tried many different price points, and we came up to understand what are the price clients are ready to pay. What is the sweet spot? Okay, I will give you here a small case of Dropbox. Dropbox was actually an accident idea. The founder of Dropbox, Andrew Houston, he had another completely different idea in his mind, and he was living in the Silicon Valley. He was pitching all the time his ideas to different investors. And at that time, again, 2007, so that's a long time ago, he used to keep all the data and his presentation on a USB key. And unfortunately, and I do have the same problem as him, he was losing those keys all the time. And he thought for himself, maybe there is a better solution than just keeping your information on USB. And this is why he came up with the idea of a cloud solution on which you can keep and store all your data. But again, that was very new at that time, and he wasn't sure that people would be ready to pay for this. So what he did something very simple, and probably something that most of you are already doing. He created a 3-minute screencast of a mockup. So create a small mockup. He created a small video explaining how the mockup worked, and then he shared this video through a couple of media platforms from the tech industry. And out of a weekend, out of 3 days, he got 75,000 people on the waiting list for him to release this product. So you see, it cost him probably $2,000 or $3,000 to put everything together, but it gives him the confidence that the market was there and the market was interested in his idea. Here, by the way, after I will share the presentation, if you're interested, here is a link to this original 3-minute screencast he did. You'll see it's like very, very basic. But again, if the idea is good, basic can be fine, right? Second concept, second recommendation is pitch everywhere. Pitch everywhere is very important. Actually, it comes from the book of Guy Kawasaki, The Art of a Start. Very good book. If you have the chance, read it. Guy Kawasaki was working at Apple 20 years ago, 25 years ago, together with Steve Jobs, and he was the chief evangelist for Apple. Guy Kawasaki is probably the best presenter of PowerPoint presentation in the world. So whatever he says can be something you can remember. So the idea is you don't know where your next client is. You don't know where your next business partner is. You don't know where your next mentor can be, right? So the idea, when you have your idea and you like it and you love it, is pitch it absolutely everywhere to all people. When I'm saying that, I'm not saying being aggressive. I'm not saying overdoing it, right? If you can feel that this presentation, this very short pitch, is fine in the conversation, go for it, right? I will give you I will give you an example after that. But my recommendation for you is very simple. Have all the time with you pitch material for different format. Have the 15-second, have the 1 minute, the 3 minute, the 10-minute, the 1-pager, the 10-pager, the presentation with the Q&A and everything, because you never know when somebody will pop up, at the door, and be interested. So I was mentioning my own cases, if I may, for this new project, Legend AI. I've been pitching this idea to probably tens of people. The two last person I pitched it, I didn't even pitch it. I just mentioned it inside a conversation. I never ever thought that those person might be interested. It was just like a conversation. Yeah, right now I'm doing this project. And this is actually, funny enough, how I found 2 of my 3 investors. Those person I just mentioned, again, I never had any intention of sending them anything or asking. I said the idea and they say, wow, I love the idea. Can I invest in your project? You see, you never know when the people might be interested around you. So be ready, be smart about it, and pitch your idea everywhere. Now here I will give you the Airbnb case, which is very related to this. So probably you know all the case. It's very simple. I will not go into details. You have the 2 founders. They were living in San Francisco, and they knew and they saw that every time there was a big conference in the city, it was very difficult to get a hotel room. It was very expensive. So they thought for themselves, well, we have a couch. What about we rent that couch, right? Actually, it was air beds, air mattresses. That's the same idea. So what about we rent, let's say, for someone just to sleep, you know, on the floor on an air mattress? And actually, during those conferences, some people were ready to pay for this. So they thought maybe we have an idea, and they start pitching this idea over and over to absolutely everyone in San Francisco for many months. And out of all these process of presenting their idea, they managed to present the idea to Paul Graham. Paul Graham is the founder of Y Incubator, and I'm sure all of you have heard about Y Incubator. The idea is they got into the possibility to present to that person out of, let's say, few rejection, because those VCs they were presenting, I say, no, this is not for me, but try to speak with that person. Try to speak with that person. And the story is that when they presented it to Paul Graham didn't like the idea. He initially didn't thought that Airbnb has any potential. But what he liked the way those two guys were presenting the project. They had so much experience in presenting the project, and they were so convinced into their idea that he managed to say, okay, I will take you into Y Incubator and I will fund you for $20,000, which when we think about it today is almost nothing. But again, it's because you become an expert in pitching your idea that opportunities will appear to you. Third idea is start selling early. This comes to a book that you must read 100%, is The Lean Startup, if you haven't read it yet. So the idea is do not wait to have 100% finished book, finished MVP or platform or whatever it is you are developing. This is a mistake that I saw so many times already, and I did the mistake myself, to be quite honest with you. You are a little bit afraid to go to the market with something which is unfinished, right? This is legitimate. You see, it's not finished, people will not be happy. People will not be happy. We have a negative feedbacks, you know, and we'll go nowhere. So I prefer not to sell. Wait until the product is 100% ready. This is a mistake. This is a mistake. And right now in this new project that I'm launching, I will not wait for the MVP to be prepared, to be finished before I will start selling it. Because the thing is, there is always something that you can sell to your customer. Because selling is actually verifying a hypothesis, right? The more you sell, the more you can verify if your ideas make sense, right? And you don't have to sell the whole thing. You can sell a small bit of your idea. And if people are ready to buy a small bit of your idea, this is good enough, right? Second thing is, if you have the first people buying your product, again, it shifts the perception. It shifts the perception for the market. So it's not you have an idea, it's you have a business. And it's not you are a wannabe entrepreneur, it's you are an entrepreneur because you are selling something, okay? The second thing, it will give you a better self-esteem, right? You will feel better about yourself because you're investing so many hours, so much energy on something. If somebody is ready to pay some money for this something, well, it means that you're not in the wrong direction. And third, and probably the most important thing, early traction attracts investors, right? You attract investors because you are selling. No matter if you have 10 clients, 15 clients, every time you start growing the number of clients is a very positive signal that you're sending to the market. So the more you sell, the more investor will be interested in whatever it is you are doing, okay? So this is why it is important to start selling early, whatever your idea is. And here's a small case that I like. Maybe you have heard about it. So Melanie Perkins, she... Guys, can you put on mute? Thank you. So Melanie Perkins, she is the one behind the idea of Canva. Okay, she was a student and she needed a design tool. And unfortunately, when we're talking about design tool, especially 10 years ago, the one everybody uses Photoshop, which you know is not an easy product to use, and all other, let's say, Adobe product are very not easy to use. You have to spend time to understand, take some course and everything, right? So she saw that there was a problem. She saw that people needed some easy tool to use on a daily basis, right? Without going for the complication. Unfortunately, she understands that developing a product, even an MVP, will be costing maybe not millions, but hundreds of $1,000s, because you know as much as I do, developing platforms cost a lot of money. So what she did, and a smart move she did, was not launching the whole thing straight ahead, but focus on a small niche in order to test the idea. And she created something called Fusion Books, which was a very, let's say, simple online tool that will help universities print those school yearbooks. School yearbooks is something which is very popular in in England, in the US, in Australia. So on these countries, having those yearbooks is something very important. And there was no offer to help the universities creating these books. And this early stage startup, Fusion Books, actually managed to become the leader in this very specific niche. And after she became a leader in this very specific niche, she had the credibility. So she could more easily get access to investors, and those investors will finance what at the end of the day will become Canva, one of the leading platform for online design. Okay, another important point, important recommendation is removing entry barriers. What I'm saying behind the removing entry barriers is that when you have a product and your product is, let's say, in a good enough shape that people will be ready to pay some money for it, your main target is avoiding any possible friction that will make people less likely to buy it. What I'm saying with that is, in the other way around, make it as easy as possible for people to buy it. And the easiest way, you know, of course, all of you know it, is the freemium idea, or the free version, free test for 10 days, 15 days, and so on, right? The easiest it is for clients to buy in, the more chances you have to sell your solutions. Now here, before I continue developing on this idea, I also want to mention this specific book, which is called Influence, which, if I may recommend you to buy it and read it, it's kind of easy to read. It's like probably 300 pages, no more than that, but it will give you a lot of ideas how to attract clients to your product. And there is a lot of influence things which you don't even think about it, but might be a good way to make people come to your company. One of the easiest, let's say, way to push people buying something from you is offering them something. You probably have seen this in many different countries, where you have this Jehovah testimony, witnesses. They will walk on the street, they will give you a flower, they will give you a bracelet or whatever, something which worth next to nothing, right? But if somebody gives you something as a present, you will feel automatically engaged in returning this present into something. So what usually they do is they give you flowers, and then they will say, oh, if you want, you can give some money, let's say, to our church, right? And if you receive something, you will feel obliged to give something. That's how they work. This is coming from these books, so it can give you actually very clever ideas of how to get your first client and how to influence them to come specifically through your solution. It can work with B2B. It can also work with B2C, obviously. Okay, the idea of removing those entry barriers is highlighted through 3 elements. First of all, it's when you lower the entry barrier, you have to eliminate the fear of wasting money, right? Especially today, unfortunately, you know that we're living in a time where money is a very important asset, and no one nowhere is ready to give up on their money as easily as before. So the main question somebody will ask themselves before buying anything that you have to sell them is, am I wasting my money? Should I buy something different from somebody else? So they are calculating this. So giving the possibility to someone to test your product for free, again, when possible, is a very powerful instrument that will, let's say, drag people to you. Now, you will tell me, yeah, but if we're in a B2B business, it's not always possible to make a free test, right? You don't have to make a free test. You can do something different, right? For instance, if you have a difficult integration of your product into the clients, you can offer the support for free, right? You can offer the onboarding for free or anything for free, right? The important thing is the perception of the client that they get something substantial from you as a bonus of doing business with you. That's the most thing. It's a psychological thing. Again, this is why I'm forwarding you to this book. Psychology is very important to sell, right? When possible, remove the technical friction. Again, the complicated installation, the long onboarding, this is 100% something that works against you. Clients, especially big clients, don't like that because they understand that they will have to spend time, they have to spend the time of their valuable employee in something which is different from their core activity. So no complicated installation if possible, no long onboarding if it's possible. Third, the first purchase must deliver visible value right away. This is an important one. When somebody buys something, when somebody tries something, they may not have yet decided if they want to continue with this. So if they don't see the value, if the value is hidden somewhere in the future, there's many chances that people will not go through with your product. It's very important to make this value accessible. And this is why with a lot of B2C to B2C products, when you have this free trial, you receive emails saying that, but not only you have this 15 days, but we give you another 7 days on top, and we will give you this free feature that you're not supposed to have, and we'll give you a coupon to something else, right? The idea is, again, it's a psychology. It's pure psychology. But the more the person thinks they receive from their investment or for their paying, the better it is. I will give you here the example of Spotify. You all know the story of Spotify. 2008, this time was highlights of online music piracy, music, movies, and everything, right? You will not pay to have any sort of content because it was so easy to get it access online. However, the idea behind Spotify and the two founders was that the user experience behind piracy was not a good experience, right? You have to go through different websites, try to find the music you like, upload this music. It will take 5 minutes, 10 minutes to upload something. Then at the end of the day, you have a low quality music. So they said that their idea was that, yeah, okay, piracy is important, but if we come with a legal way for people to consume music content, maybe people will be ready to pay for a better consumer experience. And that was their idea. And again, 2008, that was very optimistic way of thinking. But they did that. And now they had this first deal. They were the first to have the deal with all the majors from the music. And they had the question was how we make people come to our platform, right? How we make people listen to the music on our platform when it's so easy to download everything on the internet. Well, the idea was to make a free access to the music. And of course, they had some things, some tweaks, like if you had the free version, then you have, of course, the advertising, that not all the features are available. But it worked. It worked. And in 2024, they have 500 million subscribers. And out of these 500 million subscribers, they have 200 million subscribers that are paying subscribers, right? So it means that dragging people for a free service and then offer a paid version, which is, let's say, way better, is a very good option. Okay, and the clever thing is that was their idea of doing business since the very beginning, which is a mistake in my point of view that YouTube did when they launched the premium, because they had the free version and then they tried to build the paid version on top. And again, the added value of the free, the paid version is not that obvious to many people, right? So that's maybe the difference between the success of Spotify as a paid for platform versus YouTube as a paid for platform. Next one, and this is one that I really like, and you have to be a little bit careful with this one, is fake it until you make it, right? You've heard about this many times, I suppose, because the very first time it was said, it was in the music from Simon Garfunkel in '68. So it wasn't made on purpose on a business context, right? But step by step, especially with the development of all the startups in the 2010 and so on, it's become a famous say. Now, why I'm saying that this is an important one and probably a dangerous one? Nobody loves to make business with a company which is too young, too let's say with not enough experience, because you take a risk, right? It's one person. If that person tomorrow change job, change company, change country, whatever, what's happening with me, right? So nobody loves to make business with a one-man business, right? So my point, and I said that to every single startup owners that I've met, and I apply that for myself, is always try to make yourself appear bigger than you are, right? Even if you are alone, working from your, even if you are alone and if you are working for your own apartments and you are trying to position yourself as a company or whatever, always try to put the elements that will people make believe that you are bigger, you know. Never say I will do, always say we are doing something, you know. If you don't have clients, because again, nobody loves to be the first client. Well, again, it's a risk to be the first client of anybody, right? So don't say we don't have clients. Say we are in the process of working with the first client. We are onboarding the first client. Something like this. You don't have to lie. Not fake it until you make it doesn't mean you have to lie, but just make yourself appear bigger than you really are, right? For example, use professional branding. If you use professional branding, very well polished deck, you talk well, you will always provide this feeling of credibility, a feeling of trust, right? Have a professional email address with the name of your company, not a Gmail address, because Gmail address means that you're not in business yet, right? Those are small things, but put all those small things together and it will change the perception you will send to the market. The way you're dressed, the way your hair are cut, you know, all this makes sense, right? Because somebody will look at you and will think, do I want to make business with this person? Do I want to contact this person on a daily basis? Is it the person that I'm ready to trust? And if the answer is no, or if the answer is no of one of all these questions, then nobody will do business with you, right? So what I'm saying is there's a risk behind it, because you have to know that you fake it until you make it, right? You should not over convince yourself that you're actually making it when you're not making it. You understand what I'm saying? Again, it's a psychological thing. You have to understand why you're doing that. You also have to be consistent, right? People, especially on small market, they discuss with each other. If you say one version to a person, another version to another person, then somebody will just reconnect, and they will see that your story doesn't make sense. So be careful with what you're doing. Again, not lie. This is not the idea, but always try to appear more successful than you are, because it will be really reassuring to your customers. And here we'll give you an example of Figma. God, sorry. I will give you the example of Figma. Figma is a company, all of you know Figma, you know how it works. I will not get back to that. But it was interesting is how they launch, right? Again, a similar story from the Adobe, from the Canva case. They understood that the market was missing some very important design platforms, and they decided to launch their own version, let's say, of professional design tools, something similar to what Adobe will have. Now, you know Adobe, everybody knows Adobe, they are very big. And even 10 years ago, when they decided to launch Figma, Adobe was already the big guy in the market, right? So what they did, because they understood that going face to face against Adobe, it doesn't make any sense. They understood that, again, as the Canva case, the problem with all Adobe suites of products is that they are complicated to use. They are very good product, but very complicated to use. And they thought something with a customer experience that is way more friendly than any of Adobe product. So what they did, because they will not be able to develop completely their platform, they develop a very simple mockup that have very, very limited number of features. And they come to the market with this very, very neat, very nicely done, very user-friendly platform. And they started with that. And after there was a first positive response from the market to this, let's say, original mockup, they start adding more feature and making the product more complicated for the future. Okay, so very similar to the Canva case. Here, the idea is start with something simple, but start with an amazing customer experience. Because at the end of the day, especially today, the customer experience is the one thing that will make the difference between you and even big companies already in the market. If it's easy to use, people will come to you. The last recommendation, let's say positive recommendation, I will give you today is under promise and over deliver. Right? You have heard that hundreds of times. It's an easy and obvious one. It comes from a book called In Search of Excellence. Interesting book. If you don't have time, don't read it. If you have the time, do read it. The idea is every single client, no matter how much they will pay, they will always have an expectation, always, right? So I'm saying under promising and over delivering is not an easy thing, right? It's something easier said than done, because always you will think that you're under promise, and at the end of the day, let's say you will fit to what your client is expecting. And especially at early stage, you might have bugs, you might have something with your customer experience, so people might not, let's say, receive exactly what they want. What I will recommend you is under promise a little bit and over deliver a little bit. This is something that I did with Buzz Factory, which is my main business today. Buzz Factory is a marketing agency, digital marketing agency that is specializing in influencer marketing. As a matter of fact, we're the very first influencer marketing agency on the Russian market. And now we do two things: influencer marketing and online reputation management. When I started my business, 2010, influencer marketing was something extremely small on the market. Nobody trusted influencer marketing. It was like really, really early on. So what I did systematically with absolutely all the campaign, and we continue doing that, is when I will send a proposal to a client, I will voluntarily underestimate the number of metrics that we'll be able to deliver with the campaign. So if I know that we'll reach, let's say, 2 million views on a campaign, I will say 1.5 million views. And when at the end of the day, the client will see that we have 2 million views instead of 1.5, of course they will be happy. Of course they will think that I pay for something and I receive more than what I deliver. So this, if you have the possibility to do that in your business, this is something that is extremely, extremely strong. It's extremely strong because it will create positive word of mouth about your business. It will create long-term relationship with your clients, right? A client that sees that you over deliver all the time will trust you to stay. Again, be careful of what I said. I said, when I thought we can reach 2 million views, I said 1.5. So I under promise a little bit, right? By 20% or something like this. If I said, oh, we'll reach 1.5 million, and then we reach 10 millions, the next time I will send my proposal to the client will say, yeah, but I mean, you're proposing me a number. I know that you might reach much more than that. So it can create also some tension. So be careful to underpromise a little bit and over-deliver a little bit, right? But this is the best instrument that you can use in order to make your client happy, have strong credential, and build long-term relationship with a client. I've never seen in my life a client which were unhappy because you underpromise or you over-deliver, let's say, on a campaign. So here we'll give you a very small example, which is Zoom. The story of Zoom is interesting because when Zoom was started in 2012, if you remember, Skype was the big boy in this online communication industry. And many investors said, why the market need another player if there is Skype and everybody use Skype and it's fine, it works. But the thing with Zoom, the founder of Zoom, Eric Yuan, he said that the quality of the service and the user experience on Skype is not good. And this is right. If you remember, I don't know if you're still using Skype or not, but in order to use Skype, you have to register as a Skype user. If you're not a Skype user, if you're not a registered Skype user, you cannot receive a Skype call, right? And Zoom said, what about if we remove that, right? Any person that has a link will be able to connect with the call. And you remember what happened during COVID. In December 2019, there were 50 million users of Zoom in the world. In April 2020, there was 300 million users of Zoom. So they managed in 5 months to increase 6 times the number of users for a very simple reason. It's easy to use. It's free. I mean, you can have the paid version, but it's free and it's consistently good quality. So you see, by consistently over delivering, you can create a very strong added value for your market. So now that I said that I give you my, let's say, positive recommendations, again, you might have your own. The idea is to have this discipline, right? To stand for yourself a quantity of those recommendations, those ideas, those mantra, and keep them. You know, write them on the wall somewhere in your company. Write them on a paper and put it next to your computer. So every day you can read them and remind them for yourself. Now, the thing that now I will go with you is that having a good discipline is good, is important, right? Having a good product is good, is important. Having good relationship partners is good. What is important is not making mistakes, because mistakes kills startups all the time. So my point is, being disciplined, being good, know what you're doing, being, let's say, confident is fine, but be careful to these 6 mistakes that I will mention right now. So these 6 mistakes are the most important startup killer that they are. First is ignoring feedbacks. Second be overconfident. Third, accept long-term payments or long payments delays. Failing to adapt, know when to stop, doesn't know when to stop, and the founders burnout. Those are really the reasons, the main reasons, in my point of view, why a startup will fail. And I will detail them with you right now. I will start with ignoring feedback. There is something called the founder's bias, right? A founder's bias means that you are the founder of your company. Maybe it's the first company you have, maybe the second, third. The more experience you have, the smaller this founder's bias is, because you'll know how to cope with it. But when you're early on with especially your first project or your second project, you might fall in love with your project. And it means that you stop being objective when you are considering your project, right? So when you stop considering, when you fall in love with a project, you start being blind to someone else's recommendations, right? You might even take it extremely personally when somebody criticizes what you're doing, right? It's difficult, it's very difficult to listen to someone which has a negative feedback on your project, right? This is why I'm telling you that, and I will tell you that all the time, but be very careful from the feedbacks that you have from your friend, relatives, family, and so on, right? Because those person, they love you and they don't want to hurt you. They might not be the best person to assess whether if your idea is good or not, or if you are doing something bad or not. It can be even something different, right? You have an idea. You will start speaking with a client, second, third, three client, four client. Every single time you will have different feedbacks, right? Because every client is different. And some will say, oh, this is good if you do something like this. Oh, that would be nice if you add that feature. Oh, that would be interesting if you do that. Of course, you will not be able to add all this feedback in your product, because at the end of the day, your product will be a no fit for no one, right? You have to be, at the end of the day, the clever guy or the clever girl or women to decide what goes inside the product or not goes in the product, right? But be very careful with those feedback. You need to hear them, right? There's another thing that you have to be very careful of, is the isolation trap. So the isolation trap is when you are early on a project and you hire the first person, or you are a few founders, right? You will be you'll have around you what we call yes men, people that will say that everything you say is great, is smart, is going in the right direction, and so on, right? You will lose the challenge. What really matters is the challenge, okay? You have to have this challenge from someone. So my recommendation here, in order to avoid this ignoring feedbacks, first of all, and say, is hire yourself with truth tellers, which means that people that are really, that you know will be honest with their feedbacks. Okay, somebody saying everything you do is great is not helping. Yes, it's good for your thought, for your soul. It's very pleasant, but in a business wise, that doesn't work. You know, I prefer 100 times a clients that tell me I don't like your product because of that, that, and that, than a client that say, oh yes, it's interesting, right? Because yes, interesting, that means doesn't, I'm not interested at the end of the day. But the client said that I don't like that, that's something you can build on, right? Something to hear, and then you can either implement this, argue with them, you know, try to find something. So this feedback is very, very, very important. Another important thing is use data and not your intuition to filter discussions, right? Again, of course you have intuitions. Of course you have. That's why you're an entrepreneur. You cannot be an entrepreneur and don't have an intuition, right? That's how you get your idea in the first place, right? That's intuition. But at some point, intuition can be counterproductive, right? Your intuition will drive you in the wrong direction, may drive you in the wrong direction, right? This is why you need to add data to whatever it is you are doing, right? To make sure that you are doing something which actually matters with the real market and everything. And finally, and I will give you this advice again and again, because that's the best advice I will probably give you today. Whatever small is your idea, whatever small is your startup at this current stage, the one thing, the one priority you should focus on, besides of delivering, of course, the product, is to create an advisory board. Okay, an advisory board can be 3 people, right? It can be 3 people, but choose those people wisely, right? It cannot be friends, cannot be family. It has to be people that you trust 100%. Right? People in business, in different businesses, it doesn't matter. It can be people that you have studied with, right? It has to be people that are outside of your business, but meet with your advisory board once a month. Tell them I'm doing that, and that, and listen to what they're doing. If your advisory board is starting to say, oh, you do that is not right, then stop immediately what you're doing. Okay, because those are the people that will try to help you drive your business in the right direction. And this is something I haven't done with my, let's say, first startup that failed, and that's probably the reason why it failed, the first one. Now, this one that I'm launching, we are in the process of building an advisory board with 6 people, because the more people you have on your advisory board, the more chances you will have to have very clever feedbacks. That's what you need, clever feedbacks. Advisory board can open you a lot of doors. So use that advisory board. And I will give you another advice. I studied at Oxford. I mentioned that in the beginning of the presentation. There is a recommendation for students in Oxford, which are in business sections, to become part of advisory board in startup, which means that it's recommended because it will teach us students from Oxford how to become better at being an advisory board. And it's something interesting, important for us, because you start being advisory board as a small startup, and then you will grow and become advisory board in a big company, right? So my point is, if you use LinkedIn, and I'm sure everybody of you using LinkedIn, do not be afraid to ask people from your network whether if they will be interested in being part of this advisory board. In the worst case scenario, they will say no, right? But you need only 3 people, not 2, not 1. You need 3 people, at least 3, because then you will have a better, let's say, view on these feedbacks. And these are the excellent way, let's say, to keep track and to keep going in the right direction. And you'll see I will give that back to this argument again and again today, because that's something easy to organize, and it is extremely valuable for a startup, especially at early stage. Here are some example, very famous example of companies that did not hear the feedback from the market, or they hear the feedback but they were not fast enough to react to it. So the first one is BlackBerry. There's a very good film that came up 2 or 3 years ago about the story of BlackBerry. What happened with them is they completely missed the point when the market went for keyless mobile phones, right? They thought that having keys on the phone was the main issue, and people will be willing to continue with that. And they completely missed this market trends changing. And when they try to cope with the market, it was too late. Kodak has exactly the same story. Actually, the funny story is that someone working at Kodak was actually the inventor of the digital photo camera in the 70s. But their main business was selling films. So having a digital photo camera, it's not good for them. So they had the technology, but they decided not to develop it. And actually, they have some patents that was lasting until 2006 or 2007. And the funny thing is, most of their competitors, they developed their own digital cameras using the patent that was developed by Kodak. And when they understood that the market was going for the digital camera, it was already too late for them because the company was so big that it took them a year and a half to launch a new version of a new digital camera, when a competitor like Fuji or Sony will take only 6 months to launch the new version. And the last one is a company you probably don't know if you haven't been to the US. It's called Blockbuster. That was the company where you rent the CDs, the cassettes, and the DVDs up to the early 2000s. So up to that time, I don't know how old you are, not too old you are, but buying movies on a DVD, on a CD or cassette or whatever was expensive, was like $30 a movie. So people will rent it, right? And their business was actually disrupted by Netflix. And the funny story is the owner of Blockbuster had a meeting with the owner of Netflix. It was in 2003. The guys from Netflix proposed to Blockbuster to buy them out for something like $20 million. And the Blockbuster guy said, no, there is no space for a business of online streaming as yours. Again, it's a little bit more complicated than that, because at that time, Netflix was not online streaming. They were renting DVDs out of a mail. So you order online and receive it by mail. But the long story short, Blockbuster said, no, there is no business for you. We'll copy you and we'll destroy you. And now you know that Blockbusters, at some point, they had 1.5 thousand shops in the US. And we're talking about big shops, like huge shops, right? And now they're completely out of business. They didn't see the future of online streaming. They completely missed that out. So ignoring feedback or not being able to, let's say, be fast enough with feedback can actually drive a business to collapse completely. Be overconfident. This is also another important part. You start selling, sales start growing. You very easily can lose focus and think that you are a very clever person because you made it. And a lot of entrepreneurs made that very easy to do mistakes of thinking about themselves of more clever than they really are. When you lack of opposition, again, you have small team, you have too much loyal people around you, it amplifies what's called the blind spots. So you can just lose track of what the market is about, where the market is heading and everything. So this is very easy, and I will give you some example after that of people that become overconfident and drive huge business actually to fail. So it is important to be confident. Again, if you're not confident, you cannot be a successful entrepreneur. If you go to see a client, and client will feel if you're not confident. If you're not confident in your product, the client will not be confident on your product. So being confident is important. And the day when you lose that confidence, when you understand that you cannot get back that confidence, that's probably a day when you have to stop your business. Okay. But again, being overconfident is always bad. So what you should do in order to avoid become overconfident, first, and again, the same idea, invite some external advisors or mentors, people that can challenge you. Even if you're successful, they will be able to challenge you. This is why it's important when you choose those advisors to pick people that are much more experienced than you and much more successful than you. Okay, because if someone very successful criticize you, no matter how confident you are, you will feel that you have to listen to that person, right? So pick people very accordingly. Then use some KPIs, some simple metrics, financial data, just to make sure that what builds your confidence is actually good business. Because again, the many times I've saw a mistake where entrepreneur will mistake turnover with profitability. Okay, you can have 10 million in sale and be at minus $2 million, let's say, in profitability. All right, so do not be careful on focusing on the right metrics. My advice to you is become very good with the finance, because finance is the key of everything. right? If your business goes well, the finance will show you immediately you go well. The thing that also some entrepreneurs do, and it's a mistake, is there's what we call vanity KPIs, right? Vanity metrics. Vanity metrics, for instance, is the number of followers you have on Instagram, right? Number of followers of Instagram, it doesn't give you anything. It doesn't give you any sales. It's good. You're feeling good about it. But business-wise, it doesn't show you anything. So what you should be looking at is what's called financial metrics, financial ratios, right? Look at your DSO, look at your DPO, look at your cash flows, right? These are important metrics because they will tell you immediately if you're good with business or not good with business. And if you're not fine with finance, again, you're an entrepreneur, you might not be fine with finance. It's not easy to really be good with finance, but you must have someone somewhere, maybe someone in your board of advisor, someone which is extremely good with finance, because that someone which is extremely good with finance will tell you everything is fine or not everything is fine. Okay. And finally, another one which is extremely important and probably the most complicated of them all is create a culture inside the company where critical debate is encouraged, right? Again, different culture. There is this dimensions from Hofstede. Maybe you have heard about this model that different countries have different relationship with the boss and everything. You, as an entrepreneur, you must make sure that inside your company, your small company, everybody, even the lowest person, can speak their idea, can speak their feedbacks. Because if anybody can say what they want and everybody else will be listening, that this is how you will get proper feedback. Right? If you have a culture where only you are the one speaking and nobody else besides you can speak, again, it's a very wrong culture. And when the company will grow, and we see that on Friday, this will destroy your business. A bad culture destroys business. That's it. That's a very important thing that you have to remember. So here's 3 examples of very, very strong leaders that almost drive their business to end. The first one is Adam Newman, very, very charismatic guy. He has very clever idea, again, to rent a large spaces, and then they cut it into small spaces and rent it for a company as a very high price, right? All of you know we work hard about it. And at some point, it was developing in absolutely every direction. We sport, we bank, we whatever you want. And when they made the IPO, actually, financial guy, again, this guy was very strong because he was speaking all the time, like he was speaking very well. But financial world just got into the numbers. And what they saw is a company, which is a real estate company that tries to position itself as a tech company with valuation, which is related to a tech company. And looking further into the details, they saw that the company was far from being profitable because he was very good for finding investors, but he was just putting more money in the business to keep it afloat, right? And this is why the IPO didn't work, and the business, they had to close many of the location, and he had to resign. There's another case which is even more extreme, is the case with Elizabeth Holmes. Look at the videos of her presenting her company, Teramos. The idea is with a single drop of blood, you can test over 200 possible diseases and disorder. So it was revolutionary, and she was so good at presenting. If you don't know this person, look at some videos on YouTube on her, the way she presents, the way she speaks, and she managed to trick the whole Silicon Valley in believing that she was after a revolutionary business. And the thing is, she promised things that she will not be able to deliver. They were never ever ready to deliver. The technology was nowhere to be seen. she managed to get over $700 million in investment in a company that has no product at all. And when at the end of the day, people understood that, saw that, she gets caught for fraud. And if I'm not mistaken, now she's in jail. So again, very good example of somebody being overconfident. And the last one is Thierry Cellerin, the guy from the founder from Uber, the co-founder of Uber, and you know the story. He created a very toxic culture in the company with a lot of sexual harassment and so on. And at the end of the day, many stories pop up in the media, and he had to he fought against it, but the board of directors decided to kick him out of the company because of his behavior, and this overconfidence, let's say, translated into a very, very toxic corporate culture, right? Accept payment delays. This is also an important one. This is a very simple one, but this is a very, very important one. When you start with your business and you have the first client, and if this first client could be, let's say, a big client, an international company, you are dying to have this as a client. And those clients will feel that you are dying to have this client. So what they will do is they will propose you, they might propose you very poor terms of payments. And I see that very, very commonly, especially when you deal with a very big international company, especially the American one, right? They will put on yourself such terrible payment terms, but you will accept because you'll think, I will have the credential of a very international company that everybody think. And in reality, what will happen is this company will use it as their own bank because they will finance something using your capabilities and paying you at the end of the day if they make any money, right? The thing is, when you accept poor terms of payment, this signals weaknesses. And again, those big companies, the big international companies, they are not your friends. They will never be your friend. They build these empires crushing other companies. And what they do is they will crush you as much as the other. When you say yes to a poor payment, in 1 month, in 6 months, they will come and they will renegotiate and put on yourself even worse payments. You know, I have this case with one of my historical clients, big international company. Of course, I need it as a credential, right? Every year they will tell me the same thing. They will say, look, we're very happy with you. We're ready to continue working with you. However, either we take the same terms of last year, so you're not allowed to renegotiate, let's say, the terms, or we go through a tender process, right? I don't want to go through a tender process because if I go through this, I understand I can lose the client. I don't want to lose the client. So what I say is, okay, let's keep the same terms, right? And I did that a year, 2 years, 3 years. But after 2 years, we have inflation, we have prices changing, salary getting high, and you are taking less money, right? So I said to them, I say, guys, let's do like this. Either renegotiate and you pay me every year, let's say, with a revaluation of our price with the inflation we had, the official inflation, at least, or I stop working with you. And I said that, they say yes. Okay, I keep them. Okay, that's not my main client, let's say, in terms of revenue, but as a big client and as a big credential. And saying that, coming back to them and say, this is my condition, you don't like it, we stop. They said, okay, we do like this. Okay, so always be strong when you negotiate terms with a client. Okay, insist upfront deposit, even a small one, but this proves a commitment from the client. Use milestone building. Do not wait for you to deliver the entire project. Cut your project into pieces and say, pieces 1, we finish, we deliver, receive something. Pieces 2, we finish, we deliver, receive something, right? In a worst case scenario, if you see that they're not paying or anything, and if this is an opportunity in your country, consider factoring. Factoring was you sell that a debt of this company to someone else. Of course, it's not interesting for you because they will buy you this debt with a discount, right? But again, it can be an option. Here is the shame list of the worst payer. And as you see, is the international American company. They are the worst payers. because when they say 100 days, it's not you do the job, you finish, it's finish plus 100 days. It's 100 days when you sign the acts of compliance, but the act of compliance can be signed out of a month, 2 months, so it's 2 months plus 100 days, right? I mean, pay attention to this. This is very important for you not to have all your cash out. This is the main reason why most of the company dies, because they have a first client and they cannot manage to get the money on time. And be careful to this stat here. I just discovered it a few days ago. 57% of international VAT-paying international company admitted delaying payment to supplier intentionally. You understand that? They know that you need that money. They know that you wait for that money because you have to pay your suppliers, you have to pay your salary, you have to pay your workers. Well, your workers goes on priority. Your salary is the last priority. And on purpose, those guys will pay you with delay. How unfair is that? They have the money. They do have the money, but they do that on purpose. So they're very, very, very careful when you deal with this international company. Failure to adapt. Failure to adapt is when you have the illusion that whatever worked in the past will work forever. So again, this is something probably we'll detail more on the next session, but it's very important that pivoting is a bad word in the startup universe for some reason. Actually, that's not a bad word. It means that you have understood something and you have understood that you have to change something to the way you're dealing with the business, the way you're approaching the market, right? So don't be afraid of pivoting. If something is wrong, do this pivot, right? Change something while you can change that, okay? So I will not get too much into details here because we'll get back to that next time. But here is examples of companies that fail to pivot on time, right? They fail to adapt their business. Yahoo, Nokia, MySpace, those 3 companies, at some point, they were leader in their market. They were the #1 company. Yahoo in the early 2000s were the main provider for internet search. Nokia had at some point 30% of all the market of mobile before the arrival of the iPhone. MySpace was the first very successful social media platform. They had 350 million subscribers in the early 2000s. And none of those companies that were really absolute leader in the market, they managed to adapt their products well enough, let's say, to keep this market leadership. For many different reasons. Again, we can take all these cases independently from one to the other. But at the end of the day, if you not adapt, somebody will just take over, right? No matter how big is your market or whatever niche that you are focusing on. This is an important one. This is an important one and a hard one. The 2 last one are hard one. Something that you will not know until you know. Something this is kind of a taboo also in the entrepreneur world. First is know when to stop. So at which point you will understand that whatever you're doing, whatever business or whatever idea you are developing, it just doesn't work, right? This is a tough one. Why? Because you put so many efforts, time, money, sweat, energy into something, and this something is not taking off. It's not taking off, right? You have three cases in reality. Cases number 1 is it works, right? You know it works, you make money and it makes you a living and it's fine. Second case is the exact opposite. It doesn't work. You have 0 client. Nobody is ready to pay for your service. Whatever you do, nobody's ever getting to pay. So it's easy because you know that you have no market and no possibility to do anything. But the worst case scenario is the one which is in between. You make a little bit of money sometimes. Some months you make money. Some months you lose money. And you are like in the middle. And this is the worst case because this business will never grow to the point that you want, but it makes some money, so it's very hard to let it go, right? So this is a tough one, guys. This is really a tough one. Know when when stopping the machine, right? This is why, again, this is very important to have maybe some measurable stop sign for yourself, or a very concrete deadline, to say for yourself, okay, if within 1 year I don't reach like break even, or 2 years don't have reached break even, then I stop. Put those metrics for yourself, right? It's important for you to have those. Another thing is, again, I'm coming back to my advisors, but discuss that with your advisors, right? Your advisors will be the ones saying, okay, stop, okay, continue. If one person, one advisor, another one, a third one are saying the same thing, unfortunately, how hard it is, and believe me, it is heartbreaking to stop something you really believe in. But unfortunately, this is life. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You have more chances that it won't work than chances that it will, right? So if you understand that you have to stop, don't waste time. Don't wait. If you understand you have to stop, stop, right? Again, easy to say, very hard to do. But the more time you waste, it's the more capital you waste, the more brain power you waste, the harder it is for you to do another business tomorrow. So know where to stop. And here are examples of very big companies that managed to do something that didn't work, or that didn't work so far, right? The Fire Phone was a product that didn't work. The Google Glasses, the first version of the Google Glasses, you remember, it created a lot of bad publicity, and then they stopped selling it because you don't want to see people having such things on the street. Metaverse, how many billions Meta invested in the metaverse? And where's the metaverse? Today is nowhere to be seen, the metaverse, right? I'm not saying that the metaverse is not going to work in the future. So this is probably the way how they see it. They say, okay, we tried it, we experienced, we put a lot of money on the table, we understood something, but today, as for today, it doesn't work. So tomorrow it might work, right? But again, big company that, how big is the company, how many billions they put on the table to do something, when they understand it's not working, you have just to stop, right? Again, difficult one. And the last one is also a taboo, unfortunately, but this is very important, is the burnout of founder, right? When you're a founder, you are the one-man orchestra. You are doing everything in the business, right? You try to be everywhere. You want to micromanage everything, right? You want to be in control of everything. It's normal. It's your business. It's your baby, right? It's your idea. You be the one, responsible for it. So you put so many hours that there is no differentiation between your private life, and your work life. You work at night. You work during weekends. You work when you're on holiday. And I'm saying that, and I do have this problem as well. I'm going on holiday this Friday, and I know that I will take my computer with me, and I know that I will work during my holidays. That's it, But you have to create a barrier, a way to differentiate your life as a person and your working life. You have to stop. And this is, again, easy to say, not easy to do, but this is for your sake. If you're not able to create those boundaries, you will struggle, you will suffer. On the long term, it doesn't work. It will not work. You will collapse at some point, right? Because you will lose touch with your friends. You will lose touch with your family. Will you be able to have a family? It's not good. It's what's called social isolation, right? And again, it will destroy you. It will really destroy you. So it is very important for you to keep this burnout away from you. So sleep long enough, right? If working at night, it's something that is worthless. You will never be efficient working at night, right? So forget about working at night. Just fix for yourself like 9 o'clock, I stop working until 9 o'clock next morning, right? You have these 12 hours where you know you will not work, right? Take time for yourself. I have a friend of mine, he is extremely successful entrepreneur. Guys, please unmute, mute. So he has 8 businesses. He has a turnover in billions. You know what he do? he's never taking a cab, he's never taking a car, he's only walking. So it takes like 30 minutes to go to work in the morning, 30 minutes to get back to home in the evening. And during those 1 hour, 30 minutes plus 30 minutes, he will not look at his phone. So during the day, he has 30 minutes of just walking and thinking during his walks, right? So take examples from people that are successful. You have to exercise, you have to eat healthy, right? And again, this is something that your mentors or your advisors will tell you. Okay, this is important. If you don't pay attention to this, you will not be able to be successful as an investor, as an entrepreneur. And here I will give you 3 examples. Jack Dorsey, the creator of Twitter and Square, Elon Musk, those guys, they've been on the verge, of becoming crazy because they work too much. They sleep at the office, they have 70 hours a week, and of course, when you work like this, you try to simulate all your stuff, to work as much as you do. And at the end of the day, you have very, very toxic corporate culture. I will give you just an extreme case. And again, I need like a few minutes to finish this presentation. Aaron Schwartz is one of the creators of Reddit. Maybe you know the platform Reddit. The guy was so much of a burnout that he's committed suicide. So that's an extreme case, but you have to understand to which extent burnouts can drive you. So be very careful, take time for yourself, and avoid going into a burnout. So as a recap, I created this table that I'm very, very happy with. This is my creation. It just mix match the strengths that you need to build and the disrupting weaknesses that can drive you down. So, for instance, get out of the building, but do not ignore the feedbacks. Pitch everywhere, but do not be overconfident. Start selling early, but do not accept long payment delays or bad payment conditions. Remove entry barrier, but do not forget to adapt. Fake it until you make it, but do not forget to stop if it won't work. Remember, I told you that fake it until you make it is a dangerous thing, right? You fake it, but you did not make it. So if it doesn't work, at some point you will have to stop. And overpromise and over-deliver with your relationship with your clients, but again, at what cost, right? If it's at the cost of your health, of your family health, it doesn't work. It will not work. You will suffer. And in order to be successful, you cannot suffer. You will suffer, of course, because that's the way of being an entrepreneur. Okay, but you have to be careful to these things. So, just to recap, the journey from a startup to a scale-up becomes not with investors, but become with your first customers. Because again, that's when you have the first customer that your idea become a business. The discipline of listening to your first client and to build the habits the habits that will keep you alive at scale. So I said the word discipline many times. It's on purpose. It's a discipline to yourself, right? I give you some recommendation, and again, it's something that comes out of my own experience. Find for yourself good good advisors. Find for yourself a good mentor. Work those recommendations with your mentor, but have the discipline to write them down, what you should do and what you should not do. Okay, and your first client don't validate your product; they validate you as an entrepreneur. Okay, so if you are an entrepreneur, you are not you. It comes with a burden. It comes with something you will have to cope with, right? The path in life of an entrepreneur is a difficult path. You will be alone. The more successful you will be, the more lonely you will be. This is something that you will discover in time. There is no way of you knowing it until you get to that point, right? Because when you are on top, there's many things, and the bigger the company is becoming, more political it will becoming, and you will manage politics question. You will do something that are far away from what you are doing when you start being an entrepreneur, and you do everything yourself, right? So it's a complicated path, but again, success is reachable. you can reach success if you are intelligent. And again, it's not a race, it's a marathon, right? It's a long-term marathon. So keep that in your mind. And next time we'll speak on Friday and we'll discuss how you can scale your business without crushing it, which means what you should do in order to make your business grow in the future. Thank you very much. I will take some questions. So I see a first hand raise here. I will not be able to pronounce your name correctly.
Yes, I'm Aflatun from the Mobson Startup. Our startup is a multi-optional platform for solution and needs. And first of all, thanks for your useful tips during the session. I think that will be very useful for us. And you talked about the willingness to pay. Is there any tool or concrete rules that we can measure the willingness paid of our customers?
There is something I'm using myself. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, or any formula.
There is something that I'm using myself. You have to understand that you have different stages, and the different stages you can use different things, right? When I'm testing an idea, I have a huge connection with potential clients because I'm in the market for many years, and of course I know a lot of people. So I have this discussion. I said, this is my idea, and at the end of the idea, I said, do you like it? Yes, I like it. Okay, you like it. Are you willing to pay for it? And I start only with the question, are you willing to pay for it, without being more specific than that, right? They say yes, they say no. Again, if they say something like, okay, it depends of something, I say, okay, this I can argue on. If they say no, no is a no, okay? So if it's something that is not a straight no, then my next question will be, how much are you willing to pay for it? And I give a price, right? Is 100 euros a good price for you, right? And I see the reaction, and I look at the reaction, and I understand, okay, 100 euro is too low, is too high, right? According to the reaction. If someone reacts, very emotionally, oh yeah, of course, okay, of course, maybe it's too low, right? Wow, that's expensive. Okay, it's too high, And I test that, and I test this elasticity. Again, with the case of the new platform we're launching, what's called Legend AI, we have made around 100 meetings, and we will ask this question on all the meetings, and we'll just write down, the answer of everyone. And at the end of this, we have a table, and we have a very understandable gap of what people will be ready to pay. And out of all the tools that you can imagine, I think this one is the more concrete and the simplest one. Then if you are already in business, right, and you already have a product or something that people can buy, you can go one step further, okay? Somebody will say, oh, it's this product. Are you interested? Yeah, why not? And the person say, oh, it costs 100 euros. Okay, 100 euros, that's fine. Then the next thing you will say is, okay, if 100 euros is fine, I will sell it for 50 euros right now. Are you ready to pay right now 50 euros? You see what I'm saying? If they say they're agreed to pay 100 euros, make them a small discount. Okay, maybe not 50% discount, but a small discount, and ask them, okay, now I give you a discount. Are you ready to pay right now? And this is very important, because if they say no, then they've been lying to you. You see what I mean? So this is what I'm using, and you have to test that with enough people, let's say, to have answers which are coherent enough. If you have 10%, 10% might not be enough. 50%, you have something. 100, it's a strong answer. So you will know exactly where you're heading. Did I answer your question?
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Next, Fidan Abdullah.
Hi. First of all, thank you so much for this presentation. It really has been eye-opening. But I have one story that I think adds a bit of a contradiction to the point about overconfidence and knowing when to stop. So basically, in 2013, an entrepreneur named Jamie Siminoff went on Shark Tank with this product, the Doorbot, which was basically a video doorbell. and all of the sharks rejected him. They said it wouldn't work. But instead of giving up, he rebranded as Ring. He kept on improving the product, and then years later, Amazon bought it for over $1 billion. In fact, he even returned to Shark Tank, but this time he was not a contestant, he was a shark himself. So my question is, in cases like this, how do we know when to stay confident in our vision, like Jamie did, versus when we're just being overconfident and ignoring valuable judgment?
I will give you a small story, and then I will give you an answer. I have a very, very similar case. I was in the Silicon Valley. I think it was 2016. I was in San Jose, and we had different startups presenting their ideas to us. And there was one guy who was presenting helmets for the motorcycles, which were connected to the motorcycle. So when somebody will brake, there is a light on the back of the helmet that will flash, so the person behind will know that the motorcycle is slowing down. That was a good idea. It was a young guy. I was already 2 years in this idea. He was pitching up, and unfortunately, he wasn't able to finance his product. He was not able to find easy, let's say, distribution for this product. He has many problems. And I spoke with the guy at the end. He was a very nice guy, very nice guy. And I said to him, look, I will give you an advice. I think, well, it was together with the professor, the professor was a mentor to him. And I say, you have a good idea, but you're already 2 years in and you have zero sell, zero thing, you're looking for investors, to keep afloat. He has a young baby at that time, and I said, my advice to you is give yourself another year, 1 year. And if at the end of this 1 year, you see that you're still not able to sell anything, stop this idea. How good it is, how interesting it is, stop it. And I said that, and I stopped being in contact with the guy. And the guy went into Shark Tank. I think it was in 2022, and he managed to get an investment from one of the sharks in 2022. So I met him in 2016, and in 2022, so 6 years after that, he was still chasing this idea. Now, I don't know where he is now, but my point is, there's always a question of where do you invest your time, right? There is no absolute solution to whatever you do, right? Is your gut feeling. If you continue be 100% sure that your idea is good and it will work, well, continue. But you have to understand that while you are focusing on one idea, you're not focusing on maybe another idea that could work even better, right? You never know. It's the phenomena of the person digging for a diamond, and he will dig for 30 years and he will stop, and 1 meter away from him there was the biggest diamond ever. He stopped too early. You will never know. It's a gut feeling. My point is, fix for yourself some metrics, some timing. If you've spent too much time on something that doesn't work, it doesn't work. Unfortunately, again, I started my presentation saying that 90% of all idea will not work. 90%. If it doesn't work after 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, then maybe it's not a good time. It's not of whatever. It doesn't mean you're a loser. It doesn't mean you are not a creative person. It doesn't mean you're not a smart person. It just means that this was not intended to happen, right? So yes, you have the opposite cases and you have few opposite cases, but in most cases, you have to listen to the person that you have around you. And when people around you start to struggle because you focus on an idea that doesn't bring you money, then that's the moment where you should ask yourself some questions. So no easy answer to that. Again, it's a gut feeling. It's discussions that you will have to have with your mentors, with your advisors. It's discussion that you have to have with yourself. But again, at some point, it's a decision that you have to make. But I don't know if I answer correctly to your question.
Yes, you did. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Just raise your hand. If not, if you have some question that you don't want to ask in public, and I will understand that perfectly, Aidan has my contacts. You can send me an email. I will always
Yes.
answer you. Maybe not that fast, but I will answer you for sure, 100%. So don't be shy. Send me an email, and I will reconnect with you on this Friday at the same time. I wish you to have a very nice evening and talk to you soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Bye bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye bye.
Bye.